Hi, we're here on Touchstone's campus, right outside the Robert Little painting studio, and we're here for a special plein air painting event with Ron Donahue, Bill Fall, and one of our interns, Julia Castor. My name's Dean, and I'm going to introduce you to each of them, let them introduce themselves, and hopefully you'll watch along and see the paintings that developed over the next hour. So thanks for being here. This is Ron Donahue.
Hi, I'm Ron Donahue. I'm a plein air painter from Western Pennsylvania, based in Pittsburgh, and I've been part of the Touchstone family of teachers for the last 30 years on and off. My children actually spent their summers here when I was teaching, so it's been a big part of my artistic and spiritual life, and I'm happy to be here on this beautiful day, giving a little demo.
Hi, I'm Julia Castor. I'm a painter and ceramic artist from Bucks County, PA, and I am a current intern here at Touchstone Center for Crafts, and I am humbled and honored to be joining these two plein air artists in this live event.
Hi, I'm Bill Fall, and I am a Touchstone instructor. I was introduced to Touchstone by Ron Donahue, I think 20 years ago. And I was lucky enough to teach here with especially I really enjoyed teaching the students during Teen Week, which happens in every summer. Students get scholarships from schools like actually Kappa in Pittsburgh. We had a week with, I enjoyed that week very much because the Kappa students are extremely talented and they have such initiatives. So hopefully you'll get some good points from this outdoor plein air video that Ron and I are going to perform, and Julia as well. So thanks.
One thing that I try to get my students to do when they're before they begin a painting is pre-mix colors. I call them parent colors. So I'll mix an array of colors that are basically just influenced by what I'm seeing, and I call them parent colors because I use them to block in the major shapes. And as I work, I'll lighten the color with any of the primaries and white to give a variation of that. It's kind of the same. I think of it as the same DNA that runs through these colors. So you can see there I can make several variations of one color and maybe have a shadow family and a light family, all derived from kind of the same parent color. So it's something that I think speeds up the painting process, is mixing these previous to the painting being started. So I'm actually sort of painting and thinking about shapes and color before my brush actually does hit the canvas.
And the way I started painting is similar to Ron. In fact, I've read his parent color, and I would recommend this book, How to See Color and Paint It, by Arthur Stern. He talks about color spots, which were taught by Charles Hawthorne in Provincetown in a school of outdoor painting there. But color spots, basically, they're like parent colors. You break sections of the painting down into simple areas and mix a color for that area using a spot screen. I also like to use a view catcher, and a view catcher to help me position pretty much exactly, this is how I paint, exactly what I see onto my, this is a 9x12, so this is an opening that is 9x12 proportionally. So I'll look at my canvas, set the opening, and find what's in there. I can position, for instance, that cabin. I put it right here, and I've even, just like Ron with the parent colors, I've tried to match that color exactly. This spot screen, exactly, putting this out, I can override what my brain wants to do and really get a good grasp of the value, the hue, and the intensity of that particular color. It separates all the other colors around it, especially value. You can see how intense the light is. We're in the woods, so the light changes quite considerably. So it's very intense. So I will be mindful of that as I mix my colors and paint my color sections. So. I did one yesterday. This is in a stream near my house, and I tried to see this area up here. I tried to create the colors for that overall at first, and then I knew this was the brightest area, this group of grasses, and then there was an intense, beautiful brownish orange in the stream, and then the light from the sky was coming up off of that. So that's what I mean by doing the different area shapes first, and it simplifies. You go from the general to the specific when painting. So you want to simplify these areas, and it makes life much more easy because your painting comes alive sooner. So, having said that, now it's time to paint. And it's always a challenge.
And the one thing I might mention, I like what Bill had to say. It's a lot of, you might hear the same thing from both of us, but for the beginning painter, two things that I want the beginning painter to keep in mind is work from dark to light and from large shapes to small shapes. So that's kind of the same ideas. And from if you got one thing from this demonstration is that I'm painting thin to thick and from dark to light. It's a sequence that really seems to make sense. It makes it a little more luminous and archival. So try to use your big brushes at the beginning of the painting and the smaller brushes for detail more towards the end. So you don't get too caught up in the detail too early on. I think that's a problem I've seen over the years with beginners. They're seeing too much detail at the beginning when they should be seeing, as Bill mentioned, more general shapes. primary challenge is getting everything covered with an approximate value here. So get rid of the background color, and it's really a race against time. And that's the thing about outdoor painting is you don't have time to overthink anything. It's more reacting to the colors that we see and trying to get a spirit of place. You know, it's not a photograph, so there's going to be things that are not exactly right. And for the artist, you got to make some decisions that are artistic decisions, like what to leave in and what to leave out might be as important a decision, because you don't have time to put everything in. This is only going to be an hour demonstration, so we're really just trying to capture a spirit of place here. So it's a lot different than a studio painting where you're able to have the luxury of a set light and shadow. This is not that at all. This is a dogfight kind of right here, because we only have about a good hour, an hour and a half of consistent light, and then the shadows will be in a completely different spot. So you don't want to kind of have to paint over what you've initially put in. The other thing that's a little bit difficult right here where we are is to get back to see, to evaluate what's going on, because the colors tend to fuse as we get further away from the painting, as the color spots start to work together. So it's a good idea to step back, stop painting for a bit, and see what's going on there.
I've decided to focus a little bit on this figure of Dean sitting there and make that a focal point, and then I'll work on this and get it to a point where I'm a little bit happy and then go on. It might give me some confidence for the rest of the painting. But stepping back and squinting is always good, like Ron said. So especially if you can get your painting in front of your scene and see them both at the same time. This is something I was taught at Studio and Complementary in Philadelphia, and we painted the model, and so we were reminded, in fact they have it on their hat, step back and squint, but also check out your shape relationships and your color relationships. So everything in a painting is a relationship. Any of the elements of visual art, line, color, value, shape, form, space, and texture. It all has a relationship in a painting. And if you can get 4 or 5 color spots exactly the way they are, it'll carry your painting, it'll carry your work. And in fact, it's fun to do just that in terms of studying color, is just simplify it. I'm not doing that so well right now, but I know that, I know that's what I'm going for. So in fact, I'm working on detail a little too soon, but So there's Dean and this beautiful rich moss growing around him. Like a gold, sort of a gold green, which I haven't pre-mixed. So that should come forward. By that I mean the intense colors, the warm colors, they move forward and look closer. And often, as Ron used to point out to me, if you paint the color behind the color you're painting, it will pop it out. It's that relationship has to start to get going in painting. It's less about line and more about value, color shapes, color spots.
That's actually, that's so true, Bill, because you know people confuse drawing with painting. Drawing, you're putting a line around objects, and as we look out here, there's really not much line to speak of except maybe the finery of branches. Other than that, we're looking at shape against shape, color against color, and that's the magic of painting to me, is that once you put approximately the right shape and the right color down next to one another, it suddenly becomes what we're looking at. That's the way we see. We don't see lines around people's heads, unless it's a halo around their head or something like that. But primarily, we're seeing color against color. And so as a painter, you're trying to just create the illusion of what's there by reproducing how we see with light and color, and then we think about the edges, how the edges meet. I will say this is a rather complicated scene for us to be painting this afternoon, because it's a dappled light and we're inside the forest, and it's changing quickly.
Yeah, the light changes quickly in autumn. The sun moves fast in autumn and winter, which is part of the challenge, but it is a difficult spot. I give it a 10 for difficulty.
Yeah, whose idea was this?
I'll take credit for that.
That's okay. You know, the joy of plein air painting for me is being out here and seeing intensely, seeing nature in its full beauty, and whether we succeed in having a wonderful painting or not is, to me, is secondary to the fact that we're out here enjoying and seeing and really experiencing life in its fullest as an artist. I think this is what it's all about for me, and I'm sure Bill would tell you the same thing, that what you take back from this isn't just the painting, it's the experience of being, I call it the zen of seeing, where who sits anymore for 2 hours looking at anything other than our devices? So I think it's really important to get out in a quiet space and look closely and analyze color against color and the light and the shadow moving. So there's that part of painting that I think fills us, and why people like to get outside.
So Ron, you've been doing a lot of nighttime painting.
Yeah, that's new because I've been painting outside for over 30 years, and with the pandemic, because I paint in the city, a lot of people are curious and they come right up behind me. Sometimes they sneak up behind me, and I don't know they're there until they're looking over my shoulder, which is startling at times.
Because you're not listening, you're painting.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm painting and not really thinking about that. But so I just decided to do something new, which was to document this year of the pandemic by painting scenes that were night scenes from iPhotos that I've taken. I go out on night walks and look at things, and then come back into my studio the next day and start a painting. It's been very, very interesting to move into to exploring light and shadow as it occurs in the evening. Because sometimes you have like at twilight, you have an ambient light from the sky that still fills the sky, and then you have a street light And in addition to that, maybe there's a light from inside someone's living room that illuminates part of the alleyway. So there's been it's about light and shadow when we're outside painting anyway, but this has forced me to think about how three different sources of light combine to make a painting. And in some ways, it's really actually a more thoughtful, quiet painting at night. And it's actually, the nighttime is much more full of color than we think.
I can see it in your paintings. Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
Definitely things I wouldn't have noticed. So you're finishing them in the studio, or are you
Yes,
starting them?
yes, I
outside?
am. I'm
Yeah.
finishing them in the studio.
And Bill, you've been doing a lot more still life, right?
Yeah. I have been doing still life and in a process of trying to loosen up with still life and treat it as simply as I treat an outdoor painting. So not get too detailed and line oriented. There are a bunch of great painters online like Martin Campos, and I've been looking at John Redmond, Edmund Kraby, a whole bunch of others who paint everything, figures, landscapes, still lifes. So I think the still life is basically a good way to get into landscape painting. The light's controllable. You're not you don't pay your model. Everything is in there that stays the same for days on end. So that's what I like about still life, and it can be a very challenging and creative process as well.
I've heard it said that you learn more from a still life painting than anything else. Do you think that's true, Bill?
I started out when I painted at Rhode Island School of Design. I learned more from still life than anything else because it was cold in Providence, and I couldn't afford a model, so it's just, still life is a great medium to start out with, or a subject to start out with.
Did you make that decision mostly because of COVID and you didn't want to be around people as well? or-
I did at first. It's a nerve-wracking time, especially so I worried about being outside with people, like Ron said, sneaking up on you. My wife is on chemo right now, so I have to watch it, So I don't want to bring it home, and so so it's really nice to be able to stay in the same place as my house, in the basement studio. And paint.
Normally, the people you meet is probably one of the joys of, trying to paint
Yeah,
too.
good point. It is. And going out on the street, Ron and I both have painted so many city scenes and Ron's done 90 neighborhoods, but also I've been to Polish Hill and I did a 40 scene series in Sharpsburg, and I get the history of the place. You get to know a place.
Sure.
And then people give you tips. Have you seen, say, Sacred Heart of Mary Church from, Paulownia Street or from this angle? And, then it's really a nice thing to do that. So, and
Yeah,
people,
that's a good point. When you're on the street, you get these interactions that are not expected, and sometimes they can really inspire you to. You're hearing about people's their family, local histories, joy and sorrow, and I think in some way, what I've found is that gets into the work. I really believe that putting ourselves out there allows us to, get out of our comfort zones in our studios and be part of society in some way. And when I painted the 90 neighborhoods, I kept thinking this was a greater project than I had expected, because I was learning every day about a new place. And as Bill said, you know, people offered me interesting tidbits about things.
Right.
It's also a way of documenting our world. You know, I feel strongly that our society and our built environment is under a state of flux all the time, and by painting it, we're actually adding to a visual documentary narrative that hopefully will be with us for years to come.
Sure, that's the same narrative we always look to in art history, you know. So.
Now I'm starting to look for the lighter shapes as you know, I'm not sure how much time we have here, but I'm starting to think it's time for the light family to really have their turn to sing here, and that's really important, is the contrast, adding these spots of color that are really create the illusion of dappled light. That's what makes this such a beautiful scene here. As you can imagine, the light's dappling down through the light, and the top of these planes, the rocks and everything, is getting actually a blue cast, and so is the walkway, and that's simply because of the blue sky that's above us. So it's actually having an effect on our painting here. And it's that understanding of the physics of light that really does matter when you're outside painting. It's not just painting what you see, but it's kind of painting what you know. And good instruction can help you see. I've noticed that over the years, that as soon as I tell someone that the top of that white car they're painting has a blue cast, and that's from the blue sky, they think differently about it. And then I'll point to the like a piece of chrome that faces the grass, which has a green cast to it, and they're like, oh, I never noticed that. But the green of the grass was reflecting up on that, and it was that reflected light is what, when you see it and you can paint it, it really makes things come alive. It's really important to clean your palette at one point and get kind of I could call it cleaning as you cook, like your counter, to get rid of some of the old paint, and it gives you a chance to stop, maybe walk back and see where your painting is, and take an inventory of what it needs at this point in time. Because sometimes we just paint, and we don't take a break to analyze it with the scene. Now, I'm not putting in the vehicles that are in this because I just don't have time. There are nice spots of color, but I'm going to not use those. So this is just quickly, this is a paint thinner for cleaning my brush, and this is just a little medium cup. It's actually the top of that it's a reset lid, and that's so that this just speeds up the drying time, in fact, so that it becomes a bit tacky, so I can add more color as I go.
I'm using Viva paper towels. I don't have my little silly coil I have with mineral spirits in it. I just have a cup with, I use walnut oil mixed with Sunnyside mineral spirits, and these I keep my brush clean by not swishing it in, because that would dirty up the solvent, but dipping it in and taking my brush and cleaning it on this. Again, if I had a larger cup, I would use that like Ron's doing, but I didn't bring one. So basically I'm trying to justify using a vertical format and trying to get this to go up, this composition, to find interest in the background. So that's where I am right now. And
It's easy to have a love-hate relationship with these paintings, because you know sometimes it's going well, and then other times you have to scrape off the whole area or wipe it off and start again. And try to encourage students that that's not such a bad thing. Making the process is what's important here. And so if you have to wipe off an area and start again, so be it. Sometimes it's quite a relief to say that wasn't such a great start. I'm gonna try that one more time. And it's just oil paint on a panel, so it's okay to do that. Not everything you're gonna do is a masterpiece, or you think you need to keep it. The idea is to do a lot of paintings and don't get so worked up about making a masterpiece. Just enjoy the process of learning and seeing. When I teach here at Touchstone, I try to give a different lesson every day. Sometimes it's value, the importance of light and dark. And next time it might be pre-mixing color, and next time it might be the importance of warm color versus cool color. The next day it might be how the edges meet and the importance of how one edge meets the other edge. There's so much to learn. It's just amazing, and I think that's the beauty for painters like Bill and I that have been doing this for 30 or 40 years, is that there's so much to learn. That we're always in student mode, and when you're like that, you're more willing to, I think, to be a better teacher, because you understand the struggles that come with this. Because we're all learning. We're not there. I think that's important to keep in mind, that this is a process. model move.
Yeah.
That's why I'm always hesitant to paint vehicles. You're doing just fine on a car,
And then it moves.
then it leaves.
Just like to take a minute to thank our camera person here. This is Taylor Mezzo. She's an intern in ceramics. And
Yeah.
where are you from?
Oh, I'm from South Suburban Chicago. And yeah, I'm mainly a ceramic artist, so it's fun to get out here and watch you guys do your thing.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
You're doing a great job. Back to my spot.
It's good to remind students that a brush has such a long handle that it's, sometimes it's good to kind of get back and look at your subject and try holding it back. It'll give you some spring in the brush, and paint from your shoulder to kind of get some character to the lines, to the brushwork. Rather than think about being exact and using the tool as a pencil, use it as a real brush. Remember, if you make a mistake or something you don't like, just simply wipe it out. I'll take a paper towel and just dampen a little area here. I call this a solvent pass, where I'm just going to take this off. You can see that comes right off with a paper towel. And I wear gloves, and I think Bill does too, because it's just a safe practice. We're dealing with solvents and cadmiums, lead. So that will now accept a really nice, bright, cleaner color, because it's right against the substrate. There. Sure.
What is the reason behind your choice to paint with oil when you're painting silk?
Let's repeat that question.
What is your reasoning behind why you choose to paint with oils when you're painting silk?
Okay, that's a question from our intern Julia. And Bill, do you want to answer that first? Why
Both
are
of
we
you.
using oil as opposed to maybe acrylics?
One thing that comes to mind is the oil dries less quickly than acrylics. So I can wear my gloves and feel freer and dip into this solvent and push things around with my hands, and literally bring back the entire surface to pure canvas rather than you know, I can scrape it off with this palette knife, I can wipe it off with this Viva paper towel, back to pure canvas. And then with acrylics, it's always, you're fighting what's underneath, the surface that's underneath. I've seen really great acrylic paintings done, but mostly in the studio. I don't know anyone. I've never heard of anyone painting outside with acrylics. Watercolor, there's Bob Bowden in Pittsburgh, who paints on plein air in watercolor from his car and from anywhere outside. But acrylics, I don't know anyone personally. Do you, Ron? Know anybody?
Well, just online, people that I've seen online.
Seen online?
Yeah. And they're pretty successful at it, but it does come with a different set of issues, and I think you hit the nail on the head that the drying time is the biggest issue. Yeah, I don't know. Oil, just I use a dryer on mine, this medium, so it acts a little bit more like acrylic. I just think it's you have more choices with oil, and I like the texture of oil. You can build up a layering of texture paint of oil paint that I think is quite interesting. And because I work from thin to thick, my passages of dark are fairly thin and transparent and usually warm. And so the lighter areas, like let's say it's snow, the lightest area would be painted with my thickest brush stroke, and that creates the illusion of when light rakes across the canvas, it actually picks up those light areas. That doesn't happen with acrylic paint. It's pretty much the same surface. Oil allows a textural surface and a more juicy application of the paint that I don't know. I just think it's more interesting personally. Would you agree with that, Bill?
Definitely juicy, and like you said, you can paint thinly and then on top paint thickly. Acrylic can do the same thing, but I think oil is probably one of the most versatile mediums in terms of mark making, and you know, it can be juicy or it can be very thin, so there's just a variety of, it's flexible and really good medium. And with oil paints, if you don't have a lot of money, you can start out with 3 or 4 basic colors and do a limited palette painting using the Renaissance colors, of course, which I learned again at Studio and Complementary, but burnt sienna, ultramarine blue, and white. Those 3 colors will give you a warm and cool and dark and light, give you your warms, your cools, your darks, your lights. And just to get the feel of oil painting, to get those 3 colors, set up a still life, and you can get you'll be amazed at the variety of colors that you can get. Because
Bill, I'm
again,
sorry to interrupt. What were those again?
ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, and titanium white. And that's a great way to start a still life or start out with oils if you have the inclination to paint with oils. And
If you're purchasing supplies, where would you put your money? Like good brushes, good paints?
I would buy good paints because they're not that much more expensive than the cheaper ones. And oftentimes student grade paints will sink the boat right away. You're not going to get anywhere. You'll get more frustrated than anything else.
I totally agree with that. I've seen students come with these student grade paints, and they're mostly filler, and so they don't tint well when they're mixing with other colors. And I've seen a lot of frustration in a classroom where they can't make the colors that I'm demonstrating.
Right.
I really like the idea of painting with burnt sienna, ultra, and white. That's a great suggestion. Because like you're taking color out of the equation, sort of, and looking at shapes and values, right?
Yes, but also you can get a wide variety of color with those three colors.
Okay.
Because burnt sienna is almost a red in its pure form, but mixed with blue, and that's another thing that we'll get on to is mixing complementary colors to neutralize or gray down an intense color. And it's up to you as the artist which two colors you use to neutralize. But as far as Dean said, it eliminates color. It does eliminate most color choices, and I think that's exactly correct. But you would be still surprised. Once you start putting the color and color shapes, the value shapes together, kissing each other, you can get an with ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, and white. Actually, I can go, if I'll mix these two. I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but I'm getting almost a black with that color. So that's that, and then if I take white and put it into that, you can see I've got a gray. And if I want a warmer gray, I'll add more burnt sienna. If I want a cooler gray, I'll add more ultramarine blue. So these two colors plus white, but there are other combinations to use as well to create a black. One of them is this is a Phthalocyanine Blue, which often people don't like, but I'll put it with a cadmium red, and it makes an intense inky black. So you're still using color, but by using those three colors, you're still using color, but you're also, as Dean said, you're eliminating most of the problems that an entire complement of a palette can seem daunting to the beginner. But so at any rate, these are this is a little bit cool. Actually, I do start out I use a full palette against based on Studio and Commodities palette with the warm and cool reds, warm and cool yellow, orange, warm and cool green, warm and cool blue, and there are quite a few colors here. I think Ron will agree, sometimes you have to buy, like Ron uses Portland gray a lot.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful color for the shade of a cloud, because oftentimes people look at a cloud and they say, oh, that's dark gray, and they'll just mix a dark gray, put it there. But it's all about the relationships. It's usually the case that people make their cloud shade too dark. So Portland gray is a great one. I'm using a beautiful color. Now I can't remember the name of it. It's a gold green, and Grumbacher makes it, but so I really enjoy using that. It's a warmish goldish green, so I like it for painting landscapes. So
I've been set on the same palette for a long time, but recently I've found some joy in introducing a new color every now and then that I wasn't aware of. It really it's exciting to find out what new color combinations can be achieved with colors you haven't previously used. But a big mistake is thinking you need every spice in the rack kind of thing.
Yeah.
You really don't.
Okay.
not sure how much time we have, but I'm starting to I'm getting down to a point where I'm just finding some detail in areas and looking for the reflected light. I see under the eaves back here, it's quite yellow green because of the grass up in here. I wanted the depth as well, so we're trying to achieve depth and dapple light with almost a shorthand. I would have to say is what it comes down to. Starting to wrap up here. I'm trying to find the last areas of light and shadow that I want to highlight over here. But you can tell the idea with this painting was a series of verticals on this horizontal that broke up these shapes, which are the little cabins up here. They're quite charming. And the idea of this path taking us down through here, through these boulders, and kind of keeping a sense of depth through this area. So that was why I selected this. I like as complicated as it is, it gives the feeling. Now, is every rock in the right place? No. Even every tree? No. But that's the beauty of being in control of your painting. You don't have to do exactly what you see. You can kind of move things around a little bit. You're in charge here as the artist, and that's what I think is interesting, is not to be a slave to what you see, but be inspired by what you see, and kind of take the inspiration from that to here.
Well, I'm doing a vertical canvas, and I saw Dean sitting there, and I thought for this composition he would make a great focal point. So I basically used him and started with him. The rest of the painting, I feel like it's sort of a Japanese screen with trees in the background, and I'm trying to deal with that, knowing that atmospheric perspective requires that these values back here should be a little less than the foreground. And so I'm graying those out a little bit and muting them. And I'm going to step back and look at that and continue with that. I've added a little bit of more blue to his leg, and this dark right here sort of anchors him. I think this is the darkest value here. And then these dark values may be even too dark, considering the relationship between that and in the foreground, his leg, that dark in the foreground, and these darks in the background. So, having fun, and again, someone said the only way you know a painting is finished is when you just stop painting. So there's always something to do, something to change.
True.
And I could this is kind of reminding me a little bit of Cezanne with these verticals, and then the light coming through them horizontally, intermittently, so it creates a patchwork where it breaks the plane of the picture. And I think that's fun to look at it, you know. I'm not comparing myself to Cezanne, I'm just saying, just saying. It reminds me. And there's a brilliant, the path is this beautiful, brilliant color going back. And put that on there. Ron, do you get a lot people saying, "Oh, I love your painting, reminds me of Bob Ross"?
It's happened. a million times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they mean it as a compliment. So I
Oh,
Like-
it is. Yeah.
So I totally don't. I'll take it. But I do like to inform people that. Did you ever notice that Bob Ross never painted outdoors? Did you ever notice that all his trees look the same? And I said, did you ever notice he uses the same colors for the sky all the time? I'm like, he doesn't teach anybody how to see.
No.
Painting is teaching people how to see, and not just a series of tricks. And it's really understanding the beauty of nature in a way that's not just a happy little stream. Nothing against Bob Ross, but there's more to it than that.
Great
And it's a
explanation.
deeper experience. There's a lot more understanding that goes into it than just making happy trees.
Yeah, that's a great explanation. I'll use that next time. Especially. He paints the same thing every time, right?
Okay, I'm gonna try to wrap it up. If anybody was interested, this area, this comes off of here, this whole area, and it collapses. This is simply a panel that is gessoed, and this is spring loaded. So this is a portable. It's just a photographer's tripod, and you can see. I don't know if Tyler got a shot of my bag. It's just a tool bag. It has everything I need in it, brushes, paints, my paper towels, and medium, and palette knife, all go in there. And so the key to outdoor painting is don't make it any more complicated than it already is. So by taking, I just can carry this in one hand and this in the other, and I can be set up in a matter of 5 minutes at least or less, and that just encourages me to go out and paint. If you have a complicated setup or an easel, it's just another reason not to do this. So I encourage you, if you're a beginner, get something very simple to start, and paint small to start with. Don't bite off more than you can chew, and just keep at it and number them on the back and date them, and just do a lot of them.
I agree with Ron. Series of 9x12s, you'll learn more quickly if you do smaller paintings, because again, you get to the point where you have 4 basic colors on your painting, and it's those relationships that are a joy, and that from that you can, if you start getting that, you're getting painting, I think. So many of us, I grew up just drawing and focusing on that, and it was a revelation in school to paint from life and not from photographs anymore, and also to paint simple, still lifes, etc. So yeah, that's all good things, and keep it simple as you can. So I actually use a backpack like this and keep my bags in different colored bags. So I have my green like that, and this is neutral colors, white and brown, etc. in this backpack, and I can put this whole this is called an open box M. I think it's around $200. Ron told me about these, and they're made in, I think, Wyoming.
Cody, Wyoming, yeah.
Yeah, and this is just a regular used tripod that I got from Mark Panza, a local artist, and it just attaches right to that. It's a very simple setup to set up. And I've also used the what are they called? The French easels. Is that what they're called?
Yeah.
I think those were designed in the 1890s. I think.
Yeah, they're
Monet
great once
used
they're
one.
set up, but they're quite heavy and complicated to set up.
Yeah, and they can break very easily. Made from all wooden parts. So yeah.
Dean, you want to wrap it up first?
So I've just been doing some sketches. Maybe I'll turn these into paintings later on, but just some quick sketches trying to establish lights and darks and shapes. So. So I'd just like to thank Bill, Ron, Julia,
Welcome.
Taylor for coming out today. I hope you enjoyed watching, and check us out at touchstonecrafts.org, and hope we see you soon.